You're listening to the Detroit is Different podcast network.
I don't feel the same like I used to. I don't feel that pain at all. Always working the game, but I lose. Yeah, you see right through my flaws. Sunrise, closely, grip around my neck. Yeah, I can't even breathe. Yeah, always gonna choose, so I can't even eat. Yeah, you so full, yeah, so full. You the type to leave the party, but you don't really leave the party. You the type to cry inside the bathroom. Rat scare will running, thumbing through your memories, negative energy.
Welcome back to the Piper Carter podcast. You are listening to Piper Carter, and today we have a very special guest. I know I always say that our guests are special, but all of our guests are incredibly special, and today is no exception. One of our gems in Detroit. He's from a legacy family, and he is from a legacy in the music business, and he is supporting and creating new legacies and pathways to new legacies here in the city. So I definitely want to jump right into it, and I want to welcome you, Adrian Tonon. Welcome to the Piper Carter podcast.
Yay!
An honor to be here with the legendary Piper. Absolutely.
And I also want to bring in my co-host. So welcome, Brittany.
What up, though, Piper? Hi, Adrian.
Hey, what's happening?
What's happening? What's up, Deja? What's up, Jaira?
Hey, Jaira. And then Deja is coming in. She's joining us as we speak. And so, you know what we'll do? Let's go right into your tech report, Jaira. Tell us, well, first of all, I heard a rumor about you, and I want to know, is it true? I heard that you're going to be rebuilding a PC. Is this true?
Yes, I'm rebuilding a PC that I got from my job. They were throwing away old computers, and everyone was just passing them up, and I was like, what? Who can just pass up a free desktop computer that's just sitting here? So when I took it, of course, I asked for permission for my job if it was okay to take. So after that, I went through all of them because there was quite a few. I took at least 2 or 3 of them, and the other 2 I gave to family and because they needed it, and the other one I just kept for myself so that I can rebuild it instead of paying $500 or more for a new desktop computer. So the only thing what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to get a new motherboard and get some new RAM and also some fans to make sure that everything is cool, and then just make it more up to date and modern for this year while still using the old casing that the original computer came with.
Okay, go Jaira with sustainable tech. That's what's up. Hey, so let's just welcome Deja into the room. What's up, Deja?
Hey everyone, peace.
You know what, Deja? I wanted to make sure I have your Bandcamp correct. Can you just name your Bandcamp again?
Yes, my Bandcamp is CATORIIT. It's www.bandcamp.com. CATORIIT.
Okay, and since you've told us your Bandcamp, can you just tell us about your new project?
Yep, it was really just supposed to be a small EP comprised of loops and just sounds that I had fun making. And it turned out to just be something that sounded more like a sound pack. And I thought that was cool too. But that's really what it was. And it kind of made me interested in making sounds for producers.
And then what did you use?
Yeah.
How did you make your beats?
I used some apps on my phone as well as Ableton and Fruity Loops.
Okay, so the Ableton is coming along?
Slowly but surely.
Okay, and it dropped on Dilla's birthday, right? February the 7th?
Yep, February 7th, Dilla Day.
And we used one of your songs on one of the last episodes. So now
Yes,
you got
thank
some
you
airplay.
guys.
Yeah, you got airplay. What's up, yo?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the project is absolute fire. I already asked Deja if I could borrow one. She told me one was taken already.
Yeah, that's reserved, but he let me put it on the tape so people could hear it, and I'm really grateful to him. So
Oh
thank
yeah,
you.
of course. Of course.
Yeah, so Jaira, I wanted to kick it back to you for a second because I wanted Adrian to like weigh in, especially since he's involved with a lot of the important things that are going on downtown. But tell us about your your tech report that you have.
So, of course, everyone knows that listen to the podcast. I'm really a Apple fanboy in a way. So I really adore Apple and how they have their new technology that they're always updating. And one of the things that they haven't announced it, but there's been like leaks or like spread rumors. Well, not necessarily spread rumors, but it's been like leaks from Apple themselves saying that they're going to release some new Apple glasses. So there would be prescription and non-prescription. And they said that it could probably come out around 2023 to 2021. So this year up until 2023, and in between that range, it can roll out. But these glasses are supposed to help Apple users be more integrated with their software. As far as, for example, if you're using GPS, the GPS lines that you see on your phone will actually appear in front of you, in front of the road while you're driving. So it makes it easier for you to, see where you're going without looking at your phone and distracting yourself from the road. Not only that, like your notifications that you see will also pop up like on the side of the glasses. All in all, it would be like a way easier way to access all the notifications or things you normally see on your phone or notifications like directly right in front of you. I mean, and my perspective from it, I feel like it's going to be, I don't know. I feel like later on in the future it could hold um, great potential, but yet I don't know. I'm kind of worried about it as far as like, will it damage your eyes from from having that like directly in your eyes, like as a actual prescription glasses. I want y'all input to see what you think about it. What from what you heard, what I said, how do you feel about it?
Y'all know what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna just ask Adrian.
So I have a
Like,
question.
what do you think about that, Adrian?
But wasn't that already? Didn't they already introduce that? Because I remember like 2 years ago that I had some friends that were walking around with those glasses. They were like the Apple smartware. Wasn't that?
I feel like they introduced it, but I feel like it didn't pick
No,
up.
it didn't. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing about them being prescription because that's the next level right there. But
yeah, I know.
I've definitely had a pair on before, like 2 years ago, but I never. They just kind of like you said, Piper. They kind of fizzled out. Not that they're not here. Is the future absolutely? But at that time, they didn't take off.
Yeah, I remember seeing them in like High Snobiety or something like that. But yeah, I never even met anyone that had them. So that's interesting. You met people that had them.
Yeah, I had this gentleman who's a lawyer. He was one of actually Mayor Kilpatrick's lawyers. The young man that looked like super Clark Kent. He had him all the time on. I don't know if you remember. He was in all the pictures always, but he had him on all the time.
Yeah, I wonder like. Okay, like I could understand like notifications, like like Siri or like somebody talking to you, but I'm not. I'm like, how do you read that close and drive?
Yeah, it sounds like a safety hazard waiting to happen.
That's what I'm wondering.
It's almost the Predator movies where they show you the viewpoint of the predator, and it's got all like the information in it. Like you can still see the person, but it just kind of the computer screens on your left and your right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's exactly.
So that's a bit much stimulation for my brain. I'd probably I wouldn't be able to concentrate.
No, it takes a minute to get used to. Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Do you know how much they are, Jaira?
The price, well, they didn't have a like specific price because they can range honestly because there's gonna be different variations of it due to the prescription addition to it.
Okay,
So,
got you.
and then not only that, there's probably gonna be different bases as far as like different trim levels that you want it or different features that you want added. So they're probably gonna be very customizable based on what your preference is.
Wow.
The old Apple way.
Yep.
Wow. I don't know. I mean, I'm talking junk. Y'all might see me with them. I don't know. I have everything else Apple, but I don't know.
You have an Apple Watch?
No, I didn't do that. No, I didn't. No.
Me either. I like Apple products too, though. So, but I didn't need an Apple Watch personally.
I got the iMac, MacBook Pro, and a couple of iPhones, and the most recent iPhone. But I didn't get the watch because I was like, "What's the purpose of the watch if I have my phone?" So.
I feel like the watch is more useful if you're constantly on the go and you don't have time to access your phone, but you need to, get a message out real quick.
Yeah, I guess so.
I could see that.
I see people all the time. I see people doing their watch all the time, and I'm thinking like it's so small, like I wouldn't be able to see like what was happening. Even the phone is small, but yeah, I don't know.
People who have Apple Watches seem to really, really love them. Like it's part of their like routine in communicating. But I say, for me, I think Apple's most successful product in the last 2 to 5 years are definitely the AirPods. I feel like the AirPods really put like a dent for Apple, like when it comes to like innovation for some reason. Even though Bluetooth headphones have been a thing for over a decade now, the way that they crafted it and marketed it and how they look, I think they definitely nailed it.
Plus a lot of apps like Clubhouse, not that I'm on it often, but you can't be on Clubhouse if you got an Apple. It's not, it's not Android friendly. So a lot of popular Apple
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, like poor Android people.
You can't be part of the cool club, right? I guess.
Right.
Not that that's the cool club, because it's sometimes like, I'm working. How can I have this random conversation right now? But I'm sure.
Well, speaking of the cool club, there's so many cool things about you. Well, thank you, first of all, Jaira. Thanks for bringing us that report and keeping us up to date.
Thanks, Jaira.
And, like there's so many cool things about you that we could share. I was trying to think of like where to start. I think what I want to start with, Adrian, is let's just start with the most recent project that you're promoting right now, and then we'll go into all the other aspects of you that are super dynamic.
You're saying this. This is not self-proclamation, so thank you. I'm just, just a humble public servant. But I'll go backwards. Can I go backwards, Piper, and just kind of say, and we can talk about what we're working on in terms of projects. So I grew up on Schaefer and Finkel in the restaurant business on the west side of the city. I always say if child labor laws were practiced, my family would be in jail for sure. So I was 3 years old on a milk crate, washing dishes, whatever, and grew up in hospitality. I really, despised it growing up because everyone thought it was so cool to be in hospitality. My parents later went on and opened a restaurant in Farmington Hills that's still there today. And I worked there as a kid too. I always have this story that I tell that, everyone thought it was cool that I had this, that, was in the restaurant business. I was, I'm first generation. All my family's from Italy. We're still back and forth. A lot of my family still lives there. But one day I was a senior in high school, and one of my best friends was being recruited all over the country to play basketball. And I went home or I went to school that Friday morning, and he says, Magic Johnson's picking us up for dinner tonight. It was just me, him, and Magic. And I went home. I was like, Mom, Dad, you're not going to believe this. Magic's picking us up for dinner. My dad looks at me in his, broken English. He goes, what are you talking about, man? You working tonight? So my parents made me work. So growing up in that business, I really didn't enjoy it. But later down the road, there was a lot of skills that I learned that I brought to the mayor's office in terms of I started off as the founding director of customer service for the city. But as I was going through each office, I've been in the music business for a long time as well. So like Royce 5'9", Kid Vicious, a lot of the younger guys are all of our collective that, we're cultivating and we've been around for years and years. But as I'm going through each department, and customer service touches every department in terms of how we can better serve not only our external customer, but our internal customer, I was looking at film, I was looking at festivals and seeing how that we can better serve that, that customer. But at the same time, if we're going to work with film and we're going to work with music festivals and attraction retention, how can Detroiters benefit? How can proper Detroiters that live in the city be able to, whether it's be on the stages or whether it's have some sort of equity in a festival or whatever it may be, in order to grow our, our base from the mud, because we have to support our foundation. Otherwise, if we're not, we're pulling everybody in from everywhere else. We're not cultivating our foundation. That's the most important, where a lot of cities made mistakes. So with that, what happened was around the country and around the world, a lot of music was being displaced in places where there was development. So you'd have a venue that was there 30 years, you get a new development where, you see it everywhere, New York, here, this, that, where they're like, oh, great, cool neighborhood. And then they build this new project, fill it with new people, wherever they're coming from. And everyone that made it cool, they're like, peace, you got to go, right? So we are, this position I have now, we call it 24-hour economy ambassador, but what it is, it's really the economy from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., which is around our creative culture. So it's around the venues, the clubs, but also I always say it's not just about the party. I say, if you want to see a true 24-hour economy, go to Henry Ford Hospital. When a doctor, a nurse, a janitor gets out at 5, 6 in the morning, is there a restaurant to go? Is there a dry cleaner? Is there a grocery store? It's a job creator. But being in music and growing up in the industry and being here in the city, we have a focus on, really trying to cultivate artists. I work very closely with Rochelle Riley, who is our director of arts, culture, and entrepreneurship, to really not make the same mistakes that other cities have and displace the very community that makes that city attractive, that gives it its allure. And we want to see, young men and women own their mud, create generational wealth, everything that we have to be intentional about. So there's many focuses, but that's pretty much, what we're up to right now. I know that that's not how you wanted to do it, but I just felt like I wanted to give you the background of the mission and what we're doing, and take it from there.
No, that's really good. And I think that's great too, because I have an understanding of your history, but people listening don't. So it's good to kind of give that. But let's dig into some stuff a little bit.
Okay.
What part of Italy is your family from?
So my family's from northern Italy, from a place called Vittorio Veneto. It's like 45 minutes from Venice. So my father's from the north and my mother's from the south. But my father comes from a family of 12. He passed away years ago, but him and his sister were the only ones that came over to. She started in Windsor, and then he came to Detroit when he met my mother, who was here with her parents. That they started the restaurant on Schaefer and Finkel, so they started working together, and got married, had their dream to open their own restaurant, and that's how it happened. But northern Italy. And then
like, so the restaurant was already in your mom's family?
It was already. So my grandfather had come from Naples, which pizza, there it is, had come from Naples, and it was in New York, in the Bronx. And then they had some opportunity to come to Detroit to open a restaurant. So they came here to Detroit and opened the restaurant on Schaefer and Finkel.
Wow, that's great. I love Naples. I've been there like so many times. I used to, when I was working in the fashion industry, doing fashion photography in my other life, I was literally in Italy, in Naples, between Naples and France, and all different parts of south of France. Like, I don't know, I've probably been to Italy like 150 times. No lie. And Naples, we would always go there and we would stay in the country. I worked for a photographer, and we'd stay with his, well, he had a hairdresser that did the hair for us for the different shoots, and his family was from Naples, and we would stay, like on their farm. And so that's the most incredible experience ever. If anyone can go to Naples and stay on a farm and milk a cow,
That is cool.
talk about that. That's amazing. But the city, the architecture, just the people, the culture, and everything about Naples, I used to tease them all the time and say it reminded me of Black culture. And I always used to make the joke with him about Hannibal, and he would say, "Don't joke," but seriously, a lot of the Neapolitan culture, it reminds me of like Black culture, like the elders that played a bocce ball or whatever in front of the corner store and hang out. Like I mean, it's just so many things I could just like name that are hard to
It,
explain, but
it's,
yeah,
I
it's,
agree.
you noticed that too.
it's authentic and it's real. And that's what, like what you're saying, it's just real. It's genuine. It's, it's down to earth. It's a
It,
way.
it, it, it really shocked me. I probably spent only like 4 or 5 hours in Naples, but it was so fast paced. And I guess I wasn't realizing how fast paced it was. But at the same time, that like Piper's point, there was so much culture. I think at the time, um, the subway station had just gotten redone, and they did basically like it was like a tribute to art. So each stop had like this like most like amazing art that I've ever seen in my life. Like kind of, I don't know if you guys know like the African Bead Museum, the guy who does like all the different
Dabble.
designs like all over Detroit. But it
Yeah,
was like each station, yeah, like each station like was super cool, just like that. Like, and then as far as like just like it was so much culture there. There was a guy who owned this like clothing store, and he was using like different African prints to do some of his clothes. Like, and it was just like you can tell that the place has, for it to be, it's not Rome, it's not Venice. It's, even though it's like the place where people say pizza was invented, it had its own, like its own, just how Venice has its own feel. You step off the boat in Venice, the pace is slow. Naples was like a faster pace, but at the same time, it still had its like own feeling to it. Like it was very deep rooted in culture.
Yeah. Naples it's different when you travel throughout Italy. It's like here too. Like down south is a little different than it is up north, and it's just you go through each region. Italy is known for every region has their own little niche special product. Source. You're like the tomato San Marzano, the mozzarella from Campania, the prosciutto from Parma, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Adrian, is it true that the San Marzano tomato is, you really can only get it from that area because of the soil, because of the volcano erupting? Is that a true story?
The Vesuvio rock created this. Yep, definitely. And you can only get it there. I don't know if you've seen that CNN special that they've been doing. I forget the name of the actor that went there, and he visited San Marzano. And he was talking to the owner. He's like, "Man, we only have like 80 hectares here. Everybody calls their tomato the San Marzano. We could hardly get enough around in Italy, let alone all of the world." So people
It's almost it's almost
Yeah.
like a truffle, right? Like people have fake truffle, and like, so I didn't see that special, but I would imagine that they talked about if the can doesn't have this particular stamp, then it's truly not a San Marzano tomato, which is
100%.
wild to me.
Yeah, they have like DOC, DOCG, like Italy. You can
Yep.
only produce certain products out of that region in order to call it authentic. Yeah.
I know we went to the limoncello factory there, and just I know that all the different houses, like every house you go to, everyone has their wine that they make, from their backyard, and most of the folks are, making their food, they grow like most of their food, and so if they have the spinocchio or whatever they're making, or they make all their pastas, by hand, and it's almost like blasphemy to like purchase pasta. That was my experience, you know, like everyone was really, really, you know, like, you know, my gnocchi, you know, just I love the pride that, you know, when I went, that culture of pride, like, yeah, like I made this, I did this, my family does this, like that. I found that to be like super cool. I don't
I
know if
want to
that is your has been your experience.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Well, just piggyback, and I know Piper wants you to answer that, and then I'll say I'm want to develop my own process for making fresh tomato sauce from tomatoes, and just to see how people make community sauces. Like it's like this, you know, you can maybe speak to it, but it's like a holiday where once the tomatoes have harvested, the whole family is cutting tomatoes and they're making the whole process, and then everyone has enough pizza or tomato sauce, well, not pizza sauce, but enough tomato sauce to go around almost for like a whole entire year. And then like, you know, you can unfreeze it, you know, and then you can add your basil and oregano and then make it, you know, whatever pasta sauce you want. But it comes from a community, you know, a community feeling, the sauce does.
Yeah, you know what? I just like many cultures, it's like food is the convener, right? Food is the convener. It brings people together. I always said, you know, food and at the table is one of the most powerful tools there are. You know, you get people around a table, whether it's family, whatever it is, you create memories. You know, in our line of work, you create action plans and then hopefully go out and live them. You know, so food is it's a staple, and hopefully now, I mean, obviously what we've gone through, you know, with the pandemic, which we're still in, we're doing that. But food is taken. I had a conversation today with a you know, a culinary friend of mine, that food, in terms of people cooking and product and awareness, this last year, people have, you know, really gotten more into it than they were even before. So I think food is, you know, is got a great future, God willing, you know.
And Adrian, can you talk about like your experience being in a restaurateur family, like what you've learned or what you've taken from growing up in that experience that you're doing now in your work?
You know what? I really look at it in talking about cultivating a lot of young men, mostly men. We mentor some young women as well, which is great. We were talking about the producer, you know, being a female producer. We need more of that. We need more female artists. I know, Piper, you've been working many years with female artists, but that's something in Detroit that we're always obviously looking for. But I think, you know, I tell that Magic Johnson story, that my parents in the business, you know, that was a lesson, you know, focus, discipline, sacrifice, everything that it takes in order to really do whatever your craft is in life, to do it well and to do it. I mean, as far as we know, this is not a practice run. This is our lives. This is what we're trying to do. I think we're all, you know, and I speak for, you know, Detroit, because I know the people that I'm around, who I grew up around. Like, we want to be epic here, right? We want to do epic things, and Detroiters that are doing things all over the world do epic things. So I just think that it's about giving your best. It's about creating something that's hopefully sustainable. It's about just making a difference. I mean, I know that everybody on this call, I know that because I Piper, especially you, because I know you. That's what you live to do. That's what you've been doing for all these years. That's what you continue to do. But I just think that the lessons are life lessons, and I think that you have to apply them. We can talk them all day. We can, you know, we can use all these different cliches, this, that. If you don't live it, it doesn't mean anything. If you just talk it. So I think the difference in terms of, you know, what growing up in the business and what my parents instilled, and having a restaurant, the same restaurant for 50 and one for 40 something years, is you're only as good as your last performance. Yesterday means nothing. And every day you got to come out and you got to supersede your last performance, and never rest on laurels.
Wow.
I love what you just said, Adrian, because I've heard someone say, my old boss used to say, don't worry about this sale, it's the next sale. And that's so true. You're only as good as the last plate of food. You know, people in the food industry, like you just said too, COVID showed us that people are still willing to eat out, right? There's still people like carry out food, people like going out to eat, you know, they like supporting the food industry. But as Detroiters or anywhere in the world, if the food isn't consistent, if the slightest thing is different, people notice things like that. So I would just say, again, I really love what you just said about, your first, I'm paraphrasing, but, your next meal is, this meal is only as good as your next. You know what I mean? You have to be consistent.
You're only as good as your last pizza, right?
Yeah, period,
100%, 100%.
And Adrian, can you talk about just on your family business, like how has COVID impacted the business and how are y'all pivoting?
So that's interesting. You asked that. Not just in the family business, but also in music. I think that what having being from business, coming as an entrepreneur, coming from the music industry, I think that's what makes us relevant in our government roles, is because we know the needs of businesses because we are in the businesses. So I think that, pivot. So this summer, as you know, outdoor space will never be the same again. Look at like at the restaurant, we created all this, garden tables, did seating out in the garden. We were growing tomatoes and all that. Like, just use the land to create any sort of seating that you can. I don't know if y'all been to East Eats on Navajo on the east side. Have you been with Kwaku and Black Metro Eats? Have you all been? So like I said, that popped up from a abandoned, they bought the land from the land bank and they created this space. That's what this has caused in terms of businesses and innovation and things of that nature, is that it's what you don't know that you don't know, right? You look at 100% pie, 25% is what you know, 25% is what you don't know, 50%, the biggest piece of the pie, is what you don't know that you don't know. So again, just innovating and creating, like we do have to do in our own businesses, and helping others do it in their businesses. So we're seeing a lot of that right now, because a lot of people, their businesses, they were not able to pivot, they were not able to innovate, whether they threw their hands up or they just didn't have the option to do it. So I think that the lessons are just going into the unknown. Does that answer your question? I wasn't sure. I went on a tangent there for a moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, because a lot happened, and I'm just wondering, but you answered it, going into the outdoor space a bit more and just being a bit creative about spacing and being open to try something new. Like, that's what I hear is, it's not all figured out, but working, obviously within the confines of, what folks have to do according to like state regulations and stuff, but just being, I hear that. And then I'm wondering, like, in terms of the food, did y'all have to change your menu or offer different offerings, or did it impact in that kind of way?
No, you know what? We really, when the pandemic started, we really, I said, we want to be a tech company where we really build our curbside, build our specialty program, build our new website, do all that to where you become almost like a very lean, like you can get anything delivered anywhere, dry froze, whatever it is. Our chef Ernesto, who lives right behind the restaurant, really worked on the garden, and that was like kind of the first phase of it. Then we opened and created outdoor space, and the food, I think that you just constantly keep the rest are, as with you're innovating pizza, but at the same time, what's the foundation? You're building off a foundation. Some of the recipes in Italy or wherever they down south, or soul food or Arabic food or whatever it may be, it's the same recipe for 1,000 years. It's that authenticity that you're trying to create. So how do you fine tune the authenticity and perfect the authenticity without changing, the maybe the presentation, but you're still cooking food, the same old world flavors that people, when they only had their garden and when they only had their livestock, that you can eat like that. That's the freshest. Gotten away from a lot of that with Monsanto and all the different. And I know they're trying to feed the mass world hunger and do all this, but when you start altering things, you don't know what that could do to your body, right? So it's back to, yep. It's really getting back to like the organic, the heirlooms. Heirloom tomatoes are what the original tomato was before people started adding all these different things to it in order to, do whatever they were trying to do.
You sound like Dr. Sebi, Adrian.
Huh?
You sound like Dr. Sebi.
I don't know. Pardon my ignorance. I don't know who's Dr. Sebi.
Well, I don't know. Do you know the rapper Nipsey Hussle?
Do I know? Of course, yeah.
Okay, so Nipsey, well, there's a doctor that back in the 80s, he went to federal court and they were suing him for saying that he had cured AIDS basically by helping people figure out what they are to eat. He's a believer that there are certain things that we as humans are not supposed to eat. And if we eliminate hybrid fruits and vegetables, number one, and drink a water that's at a certain pH level, anything can be healed. So he won that court case in the 80s. And so I'd say in the early 2000s, all the way, up until now, a lot of people are eating under his premise, which is called alkaline eating. And Nipsey Hussle, before he died, was doing a documentary about that.
You know what? Okay, now it's all coming back to me, because that was the whole conspiracy theory with Nipsey, that he was uncovering all this and he was going to bring it to light. And that's what happened before they knew that what the truth was, what happened. Okay,
yes, but when you bring the heirloom tomatoes up and talking about the original state of the tomato, that's exactly what Dr. Sebi's teaching was, is that if we get back to the root of some of the way our bananas and tomatoes, and don't eat necessarily broccoli because that's a hybrid, though that's the same premise. You're saying the exact same thing he was.
I know there's the movement slow food and the whole but it's like eating things naturally and organically, what they were meant to be, right? Mankind altered them over the years to, for whatever was behind it. But no, there's truth to that. They talk about juicing and all these different things that are truly that are truly medicinal things that work. I mean, look at now with all the, look at cannabis, look at ayahuasca, all these different things that now they're saying, oh, these things. I mean, somebody at some point was either not making money on it or was that they would say this is bad, when these are things that actually are very healing to, whether it's mental health, whether it's something that is for the body, whatever it may be. So yeah, getting back to Mother Nature is definitely hopefully what we all need to be doing.
I love that. I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk a bit about your other life, your music industry life. And can you tell us first though, you dropped a couple names, but just how did you get into the music business?
You know what? My mother has always been, a big advocate in music. And I was 8 years old, I was at the Fox, Stevie Wonder. She used to bring me to all the shows, and just really was always into music. And then I went to college, and I was playing in some bands and traveling across the country, and thought I was going to be a rock star, but it didn't work. It didn't work out. But I started managing bands in college, and just naturally, and then ended up coming back here. And then that's when I started hanging out with Royce and Kino and all those guys at the time, and just kind of was around them all the time, but quietly, not really talking about music, just being that's my fam. So just being around it. And then Royce's younger brother, Kid Vicious, one day he was 18, 19 years old. And we were talking, and he was like, when I become, he was an aspiring artist at the time, but no one really took him, he's Royce's little brother, but he was like, I want to use my platform to, for social justice, for marginalized communities, for the oppressed. I want to start a basketball league. This is a young kid talking about all this stuff. At the same time, before I even knew I was an ally, I was already creating, opening doors that I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just around the community that I was around and what I grew up in. And it just was a lot of artists and a lot of thought leaders and a lot of poets and people that, we all came up around. I mean, you guys have been in this, Piper, you've been in it for a long time, right? We know a lot of the same people. So I was started with Vish, and then for some reason, one day I just had to get out of town. I was going through some stuff, whatever. And I went out to New York, and I went to a Prime show. And I just went from, I left in the morning, fly to New York to go to the show. And Vish is Royce's hype man. He was on the flight, and he was like,
I was like, surprise, what's up, Vish? You know, and he's like, hey, what's happening? He was real down. And I said, Vish, what's going on? He says, oh, you know, I'm working hard, and, you know, everyone's on their own focus and their grind, and, you know, not putting anything behind me. I said, let me hear your new music. I heard his new music, and I was just blown away by it. And we ended up starting a label. So he's the one artist that I still do manage. But with that label, we've cultivated a lot of other young artists. And how do you mentor? How do you get artists to be independent and be their own artists? Obviously, work to make money. But at the end of the day, what are you going to do with that money? One, we got to get you some W-9s. We can't let you just take cash all the time. Then you have no credit. You have no, then how do we work to get you, to buy a home? So that's kind of what our label does in terms of trying to cultivate. And then we have a collective called We Are Culture Creators that my business partner, Michael Reyes, and his partner, Liz Stone, started. And we started a production arm of that, to where we do a lot of, take spaces and hopefully create access equity, where our young Detroiters, we talked about earlier, how in developing cities, all these new spaces are built, and they're beautiful, and they end up filling them with people that aren't from here. How do we say, no, this place is for you? So we work with a lot of partners in order to, if young men and women can't see it, feel it, touch it, be it, how can they, dream it? How can they be it? So it's not just about the music. It's about also about just, creating quality of life, and not only world-class artists, but world-class citizens. So the music is the stem of it. You go back to Nipsey Hussle. I always say Nipsey is he's the blueprint. Nowadays, to be an artist, you can't just, yes, of course, there's all the different artists that get signed and put a $24 million, diamond on their head, which I don't even know where that money's coming from. I'm saying? God bless.
Right.
And that's crazy. But the normal artist is not going to be able to do that. I mean, we have so much, and maybe you're not the artist. Maybe you're the 100 jobs behind the artist, as Sean Anderson Foundation says. I mean, that's a great model. So again, how do you create this creative economy? Let young men and women, dream about it and be it in Detroit, in the world, but starting here in Detroit, how do we keep our artists here? So it's not just about the label. It's about, the sustainability of letting, people and trying to guide people to fulfill their dreams. I mean, Piper, you have so many young men, and, you work with Dilla Day, and with, the Charles H. Wright, and all these young minds that, they get to a certain point, they're like, I can't really go into music because there's not really money in it for me. How do we create it that there is money in it for you? And that's about not displacing the things that are the foundation of our city, because if we create it and we fulfill these dreams, and we're able to create things for the youth and for others to latch onto, people are going to come here, and they're going to support it. And the industry is going to have to come here, because they're going to have, it's great to have a pipeline to LA, but you can't buy a house in LA. You can't build generational wealth in LA. In Detroit, you can still do it. So,
that is such a great point.
Yeah. So,
and I love that. I want to take that and kind of pivot that into the conversation about the position you have. Can you tell us, because I want to maybe give us an understanding of what your position is, and how that kind of came to be. And there's a bunch, like you said, all over the world, but I don't think a lot of people know about this position.
Yeah, so as I said, organically, just as we're director of customer service, going through every department, all these frontline positions were people that couldn't make it in the music industry because there was no industry here. There's no creative economy. Well, it's starting, but there wasn't a creative economy. Making it in Detroit, as we all know, 10 years ago, was moving to LA. And you go to LA now, and there's there you go into a room, and it's like 5 of everybody else and 100 Detroiters. So just working with these individuals of how can I help? How can I be part of building this economy? We just started working, and we started creating avenues in order to highlight and to create awareness. And then I started speaking on panels, Germany, and where did I go? Germany, Stockholm, Berlin, which is Germany. Yes, definitely New York, all over the world. And I met this young man. His name is Milan, and he is the first night mayor. They're calling them nightmares around the world. So mayor of the night, right? So he was the first one out of Amsterdam, and just doing innovating things in terms of, being a liaison between the police department, city government, the health department, all these different things in order to champion an economy that most people think is a, the freaks come out at night. That's not the doctors, the nurses, the lawyers, the people that want to come to your city, live, work, and play. Those are the people, the thought leaders, the future are the people that are out at night. And also the club is the convening place. If you use the club right, in terms of, party, have a good time, whatever it may be, but you're talking about things, in terms of, we talked about food bringing people around a table. So does music, and so does, it breaks down barriers. It brings people together. It does things that other venues cannot even touch. So how do you champion those, those venues, those hours? So we started working with venues close, partnered with DPD. Instead of going and closing a place down, they would call me and say, hey, we have some issues here. Adrian, can you go talk to them? So I would go and I would talk to the, the venue owners, most of them we know, and just kind of sit with them during the week and say, okay, here's what we got to do in order for you to be compliant, for DPD not to close you down, for the health department not to close you down. So we were doing that, getting it really. And one thing that we all know too, we tended to work in silos in Detroit for many, many years because everybody was on their grind. But if we're, as new people come in pre-pandemic, people were coming in like crazy. If we're not unified as Detroiters, people are going to, walk through us, around us, whatever it is. I mean, we talk about the no-fly zone, jokingly, it's true. Like, you got to come here. Like, anybody who comes here, we say, well, who are you working with here? Who are the boots on the ground here? We have to make sure that this is something that that we stick together and work together as one, as Detroiters. So we were doing that with the venues, and we brought all the venue community together. We have one text where we can text and get out to every promoter, every curator, every club owner in the city. And then when the pandemic hit this summer, as you all saw, that Detroiters, like, everybody left, a lot of people left because they had the opportunity to. Downtown was busier than I had seen it in, it was Detroiters, 90%, 99% Black, saying, we got our city back, we got our downtown back, and we're going to wild out and have a good time. So in the midst of that, we had everybody already organized. So we were able to work with venues to keep them open, to make sure everyone's wearing masks, to keep people safe, to keep people, from, we had a lot of, issues with, with guns and things like that, things we deal with, but they were proactive measures. Rather than throw a bunch of police at it, throw resources at it, throw proactiveness at it, throw mental health at it, throw, things that can help people. So when they go to the party, they wake up the next day and they're like, wow, I got this free 1-800-ROYCE59, free mental health. So we were working with all the venues to create awareness of resources, jobs. Can you imagine if you go to a club and you hit a QR code and, you're whatever, drinking, smoking, having a good time, and you just happen to wake up the next morning and there's a job opportunity on your phone? Those are the kind of things we were able, because we organized everybody, we're able to work with. And now we're starting to program some of this in public space in order to, when other people start coming back, my whole big thing, and I think the city is like-minded. I know the mayor is, I know that, DDP, all the people that are programming a lot of these public spaces, that we knew who's supporting our city, what the foundation of our city is, and we have to make sure that that's what we're building our city off of, that foundation that was there all summer long and supported our city when a lot of people had the opportunity to go elsewhere. So
yeah, and I'm wondering, you spoke a bit about it, but I'd like you to talk about equity, because that is a foundation of your work. So I wanted you to share a little bit about how you practice equity.
I mean, equity is first you got to be the change, right? You gotta lead by example. All the businesses that, obviously with Vish, he's, he owns his label, he's 50% partner. I'll call it a Black owned business. I'm just, an ally and a partner in it, and bring my resources to it. We Are Culture Creators is Black and Latino owned. I'm just a partner. Every time we do an event, every time we bring an artist in, with artists, we give them, they own their masters, they own their music. We pay for it. We'll take, 25% because we got to cover our costs, whatever it may be, but they own all their music. If we have events where we're programming or we did an event called, it was at the Foundation Hotel. We did it for like 27 weeks, called Foundation After Dark. We had a partner every Thursday that was a collective, whether it was Hooligan, whether it was Crowd Freak, whether it was whoever it was, we would use our resources for them to come in and be a partner in the night. So everybody has ownership, and we're able to, get people paid in terms of legitimately where they're curating an event, they're bringing in artists, and how do we get the whole ecosystem paid and make sure that artists are valued and people know the value of artists, and people are, I think we saw during the pandemic that artists were the ones that are left out. This newest stimulus relief bill, artists are actually part of the stimulus relief because Washington realized that, man, who entertained everybody during that time? The content is king still, but content was king. In those times where everybody wants to be entertained in their house and we're not taking care of artists. So artists need to own their music, independent artists. We can work with the industry. We can work with the platforms. We can work with all this, but artists need to be making sure that their wealth is being built. And that's the equity piece, is that you go into a deal in Piper, again, you come from the music industry, some of the shadiness we've had it done to us, where people will take our music, and I still see some of Vicious's music posted today. I have no clue who put it up, who's collecting, and how it's even on these platforms, and he's not getting anything for it. You know what I'm saying? So I've changed all that since we started the label, that now he owns all his music and he's got his own publishing company. And I think that's the thing that we all have to fight for, for the rights of what's right, and what side of history do we want to be on? I want to be on the side of history that's the right side of history. So I think that's the equity piece, is making sure that everybody has, you might make less, but you know what? Everybody around you is eating. I don't want to be around people that are starving while I'm eating. You know what I mean? That's not cool.
Period.
Yeah.
Right. I feel the same way. And it's very interesting hear you talk, Adrian. Without a doubt, you are an ally. I must say, the intricacy in your thought, just not an ally for the Black community, but an ally for the city of Detroit, specifically you being from the city and your family owning the restaurant. It just feels really refreshing to hear you speak the way that you do, so genuinely. I have to ask you, we talk about it being a closed loop system so that artists, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. We talk about it being a closed loop system, to keep our artists, to keep our talent and creatives here. And we are in a unique situation where we're from a city where we're like, many of us are second to fourth generation music babies because of just where we come from. And then we have venues, right? I think we have a decent amount of venues in the city that are still, even though they may be a part of a national organization, they still feel like Detroit venues. So can you talk to us a little bit about what your favorite venues are, even if it's Aretha Franklin, that used to be, what is that, Shane Park, from the Fillmore to, the Magic Stick, where I used to work in the pizzeria inside of Sergeant Pepperoni's. Just give us, a little bit of context of, I know post-COVID, pre-COVID, of how do we engage people in these venues, L Club, just talk to us about your favorite venue and then your thoughts on how do we engage the city to kind of feed this ecosystem.
So the venues that are thrive during the summer are the local venues, Society, Greek, obviously, Teresa's on 6 Mile, the ones that are here that have one unit and could pivot and could really, the owners are on premise. Those are the ones we really, really worked with and and were able to they, like I said, they did some business this summer that they had never seen before. Then you have, like you said, the national artists. You have St. Andrews, you have the Fillmore, you have, Live Nation venues that it's all local leadership. But, I had a meeting with Live Nation before, and they want to do more here in Detroit, but we need to make sure that they are partnering. They have JV partnerships rather than just come and buy a building. Then you get all these national acts that you can't ever get local acts on the bill. So how do we create opportunity for our artists that live here when you're pushing all these national acts through, and our locals don't even have a chance to get on stage? They changed their mentality on that and started working with us, and started working with different entities in the city and saying, you're right, let's work together. So those are the conversations that we're able to have. I think before there wasn't that intentionality of it. And we talk about intentionality. That's a big word. You can't just, just talk it. Like, you got to live it every day, and every one of your actions has to point towards it. So I would say that, the Aretha obviously is city owned, but Shahida is a Detroiter. She's been here. She is very involved in the community, and her family and her son and everybody. You have where else? I mean, there's all sorts of new venues that are popping up, and some venues that may not make it. Willis Show Bar was a great place that was doing great things for local artists here. You have some of the places downtown. Bakers. We had a meeting with Bakers. They're back open now, but they were obviously struggling for a while. Some of this the NEVA money. Are you familiar with NEVA? It's the National Independent Venue Association. Fought really hard on a national level, and Shahida and a few others are part of the local coalition here that is has raised money for PPP money for these venues. So I think everybody's going to be good. Right now, people are struggling. Even the Society is a Black-owned space on Woodbridge in District 5 over by the Aretha. That is going to spend a lot of money to put up tents outside and that in the backyard, and we're trying to work with them. And I look at every weekend. I'm on a task force that is the health department and DPD and other authority that are very focused on health and safety. And with that, they have to go and they have to close places down that aren't abiding to the mandates. But at the end of the day, they will call me sometimes and be like, Adrian, call them, let them know that that they're this and that, and they need to do this in order for us not to go there. And that's like the city doing their thing, but also proactively giving businesses a chance to thrive and to survive. And I got to give it to our health director, Denise Fair, and obviously Chief Craig, but Commander Hayes, and all these guys that really care about the businesses here. Now, some places just aren't, they think they can get away with it, but we have to work together, So on a Monday, I'll talk to we have business liaisons that I will meet with them. And if someone got issued a ticket or they got closed, they'll follow up with them right away and say, hey, here's how we're going to get you reopened. Here's how we're going to work with you. We have to take this seriously. We have to take the safety of our, if you're 21, 22, 30, 40, whatever, you're going out to the club, there's a huge factor that you may be going home to your grandparent, you may be going home to your parent, whatever it is. And we have to make sure to keep, Detroiters safe. And that's the mayor's number one priority. He comes from healthcare. So, and plus we have this, this huge, obviously testing that we're doing. And now it's the vaccine that we're doing. So within the creative culture and the clubs and whatever it may be, it's all connected. The creative economy is all connected. And that's kind of what brings me to, like, I'm saying it's not just where the city is just doing, like, the city is very, very involved in these businesses. It's not just running the city during the day, but the creative economy. I really see a lot of government officials and, from Rochelle to others I got a call yesterday that Lansing is introducing a 4 a.m. Tuesday morning. And do we want to go and support it? A liquor license that is, that you can stay open till 4 a.m. So the conversation is really becoming to where people are starting to recognize and to appreciate the creative economy. So I think taking it back to these local venues and the national venues, people realize what the value is to the economy and what the value is to social justice, to to growing marginalized communities, to doing all these things, because the culture comes from the neighborhoods. That Black culture has been followed by everybody, and that is the foundation. And people know that is what is going to grow people. That this is the future, and it should have been a long time ago, but for some reason people didn't get it. Like, we've been living this for a long time and we've got it, but being that we have all these different people, like all the work you guys have all been doing, Decipher, all these different people, the awareness, we are banding together to create awareness, to tell people that this is how the world is going to change to be a better place. And we got to do it responsibly. It can't just be a while and out and just like no regard for, it's got to be done responsibly. But again, these spaces are bringing people together. It's a major part of the ecosystem, I feel, of making the world a better place. And I know you all feel it too, because you live, eat, breathe, and sleep it.
And I'm wondering, like, also too, with that, the how does your position intersect with I'd say like the larger business community? Like, I know specifically there are different, companies and corporations that have moved either their headquarters or an office or some representation into the city of Detroit. So like I'll just say, like, for instance, the entire all of the shops that have come downtown, and then there's some other restaurants that have come downtown. I wonder how does your job intersect with any of those businesses, or does it?
I mean, it does. A lot of the public spaces, like I said, we've been working with DDP to, Randolph Plaza, all these different places of how do you make sure that the community that supported us, and again, I keep going back to our foundation, is not displaced when everyone comes back. So they are changing the way that whether it's sometimes in some leadership or whatever it may be. I know Bedrock brought in some new leadership that are very like-minded and come from the community and know what the needs are, and whether they're from Detroit or not. Otto Adofio from New York comes from the music business. It comes from Capitol Records, doing some great things around entertainment. I think that we're not Birmingham. And I think there was, at some point we were creating a downtown that wasn't for Detroiters. We have to think about Detroiters first, and everyone will follow. I mean, people that are like-minded will follow. I think we have to learn from mistakes that other cities have made by displacing the foundation that made them, have their allure and their coolness and their factor of why people want to go to these cities. So businesses, it's my position has really become, I think I believe a voice that is, people understand the value, and now we're surrounded by more like-minded people. I think we go back to what you don't know that you don't know. And the more of us there are of, banding together, creating awareness, the more people are like, oh, I get it. Okay, I see. Let me take the blinders off. And I think a lot of the big companies are understanding that, the Dan Gilberts of the world and the Bedrocks, they got, a big investment in the city. They got rent to pay. They got, mortgages. They got all these different things. So I understand that they're trying to get, these national chains in and all these different things. But how can we do pop-up space? How can we get a designer? How can we get a pop-up pizza place from a Detroiter that, we look at, and they did a great job with, with Rosalind, Detroit is the New Black, and realize that the spaces that are not national spaces can't pay the same rent. So they've changed a lot of their business models, and they have, unfortunately, it took a pandemic really change the way a lot of people think. But you know what? It has changed, and all we can do is move forward. We can't go backwards, or it's living in the present. And I think that we're going to see a different look. I think we're going to have a different mentality in our city, and I think our city is going to be a much more greater and epic city because of it. But I feel that people are starting to be more like-minded about local and about supporting and about creating access and equity for our for Detroit proper residents and and people that have come from the city, maybe expats, whatever it may be. But I do, and if people don't, we have to be that constant reminder of things that you already know, because sometimes people get comfortable, right? We can't let anybody get comfortable. We got to make sure that we are constantly staying on top of people. So whether I'm in this position or I'm not in this position, whatever it may be, we're always going to try to do our thing to do the right thing. Not because we're like, oh, we got to do the right thing. It's because of who we are, and we don't want to be anybody different. So hopefully it's the time for this mentality to win and to be the ones that are able to shape the culture and be able to open doors and create seats at the table for our younger Detroiters that come from the city and are the Detroiters that never left. The mayor's number one, when I joined the administration, the number one principle is take care of the 750,000 Detroiters that stayed. And I think with music, with creative economy, with tech, with all this future, these are the kids of the 750,000 Detroiters that stayed. And that's what appealed to me so much about being a part of this administration, is that I see that 9 out of 10 times that that it is lived. There's some things that that others maybe make decisions that are not, and then they get checked, and by whether it's by council or whether by whoever it may be, and they get on the right path. But I think all in all, businesses, the city, the private sector, whatever it may be, are on a good trajectory of doing the right thing and being on the right side of history.
And I guess now it's almost 8 years ago, Cranes Detroit did a study, and I don't know if you have access to it, but they actually took about a year, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they spent about $30 million, and they studied how much money Detroit was losing by not having a music industry, a local music industry, meaning an ecosystem of the venues, how the music's made, distributed, so on and so forth. And it was upwards of like something like $300 million or something like that minimum. And I remember because we were a part of, they did a tour, and they brought the different heads of music labels, like Sony and so forth, together with the heads of the auto industry. And for about a week, they got together, they toured the city. 5E Gallery, which I used to own, was one of the venues they came to. They went to the Techno Museum, they went to Archer Records, they went to Motown, they went to, just all around the city. And then a year later, they came back together to study the data. And I think at the time, there were different projects that were on the table. I don't want to name them just in case people are still in negotiation, but let's just say there were some people here who are known in hip hop on a high level that were having conversations with people here who do development, and about creating theater. And then there was another like Grammy Award winning artist that was having conversation with same said developer about creating bringing a label, a major label here. And so I'm wondering, are you aware of or involved in any of those types of conversations? And also too, I wonder if you have any relationship with the Detroit Homecoming organization that's full of the Detroit expats. And I'm those are just a couple questions I have.
Yeah. So definitely, Detroit Homecoming has, they've been more around tech and around, investment, around development. There really hasn't been a music lane or a film lane in Detroit Homecoming. Incredible event. I've always attended, and I've always a lot of great people have come through. You know what? There's a lot of people that I've had. I could tell you in the last 6 months, I've had major labels, major artists, major. This one wants to meet. This one wants to meet. This one wants to come to Detroit. We all know that we can't depend on it. No one's coming to save us. We don't want to be saved, but no one's coming to save us. No one's coming. We have to create it out the mud, and that's why it's so important to support who's here, who's doing the music, create access, equity for those that are here and those that are doing it, our artists that are here. When they come, and I always take the meetings because I'm just like, that's, wow, you want to come here. But I've had so many meetings where they just, where you spend days and days with people and show them around, and then you don't hear from them. So that's it's a bit frustrating in a sense when it comes to music. I know a lot of developers have met with the mayor and they've come and done great projects here and invested in the city, and but on the creative, the creative side of it and the music side of it, we're a roll up your sleeves kind of town, and that's what we're doing is we have to create it. And I always tell everybody, because they're like, oh, we're going to come and create 30,000 jobs. I said, what you can do first is support what's going on here already. Invest in a festival, invest into the hooligan, somebody that's doing some activation, someone that's doing, the work already. Even in the cannabis industry right now, you have like Al Harrington, you have C Webb, you have all these guys that are, coming here and they're doing business, and they're investing in the economy that's already here, and they got it right because they want to invest in the people. And that's where buildings are great. We have tons of buildings. Like, invest in the people, and then you'll see things grow solidly, foundationally. And that's the way to do it. And, like I said, a lot of meetings, the things that are coming to fruition are the film incentive was introduced. Adam Hollier introduced it in the Senate. And that's being looked at right now. So we're hopefully going to get a film incentive back. My thing with them and Rochelle is we've been meeting with them, been part of this group for a couple of years now, that we want to include music videos in it, because it's great to have, film in commercials and, car commercials and this and that, but music videos could be a game changer. So that's something that can really bring a lot of business here. The 4 a.m., there's some other legislation that we're working on, that even our sound ordinance. Do you know that you can't have outdoor speakers past 10 p.m. in the city? So if to the discretion of DPD is that if we want to turn the music off at 10 p.m., we can. It should go at least till midnight, at least outside, and then that's respectable. And then in my neighborhood where I live on 94 in Trumbull, we have Art Park, we have Filthy Americans, we have all these different brands that are here that I can go to bed, like on movement weekend, I can go to bed on a Thursday night, wake up Tuesday, and the music has not stopped. It's just like boom, boom, boom. And I can walk outside at 3 in the morning, and there's 5,000 people in Art Park, white, black, red, yellow, gay, straight, Jewish, Muslim, just vibing. I mean, it's the craziest thing, it's so beautiful.
So dope.
Yeah, it really is. So that's the kind of city that we want to be, like a movie, you know what I mean? Where everyone's looking out for each other, and people are coming from all over the world to experience something that's responsible, safe, yet like some epic, I won't say it, some epicness. I'll leave it at that. Definitely.
Were you gonna say some epic shit?
Yeah, I was, but
it's cool. I said it for you. I'm your angry translator.
God bless you. Reading my mind.
Yeah. So I've asked you a bunch of questions. I wonder, do other folks have questions?
I feel the same way. I'll let Deja and Jaira take lead.
Yeah, I feel like I'm talking too much, so please.
No, Adrian, thank you. You are not talking too much at all. We need this.
No. Yeah, I've been enjoying myself just listening to the whole conversation. You guys are asking him to enjoy the piece about music. I'm excited to see what happens moving forward with the city, and I'd like to be a part of it.
When are we going to hear your beats? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, there's a whole, there's a bunch of dope rappers that are looking for, especially from a female producer. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. I know. And I have to.
You have the to like be big time here, you know. So I would definitely like to see what.
Yeah.
I mean, the cool
Yeah,
thing I like
really
about you
to
too,
just
Deja. Sorry, go ahead, Deja.
Mhm. Oh no, I was just gonna say I just have to like spend more time getting better at the programs that I have because I kind of use my phone, but I like what I do at the same time, like the ways I'm able to innovate with what I don't know and make up for what I lack. But yeah, I just really need guidance. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I'm gonna. My number is 570-7497 313-570-7497. Deja or anybody that's listening, if you call me anytime, text me. There are so many different avenues in order to connect, for guidance, for mentorship, for cultivation. You know, that's one beautiful thing about these days in the city, and is people are, you know, some of the OGs or whatever maybe are willing to step up and be like, how can I help? So there's a lot of opportunity. So the guidance is there. It's there. It's just you just gotta know where to go, and whatever it may be.
Yeah. I wonder, Jaira, do you have questions?
Not really. I mean, I'm with Deja the same. I was just listening and, you know, just admiring all the wonderful things that you were saying. It was great to just hear how, you know, how much some people are really, you know, contributing to the city.
So you tell me, so you guys that being youth and all, what is it like? Like, we obviously talked and we said, but what didn't you hear? Like, how can we serve you better? How can we do things that you're like, I didn't hear you say this. This is where my mind's at. Is
Well,
there?
you said something, but I'm glad you asked that question. So I talk about it all the time, Adrian. I'm recently in a blessed situation that a Keebler Village has a commercial kitchen, a full commercial kitchen. And Detroit is a little bit different than like LA. I have a friend that walked to her city council in LA, decided that she was going to do a vegan pop-up stand, and got her food licensing within seconds. In Detroit, it's a little different. In order for you to go through the full food licensing process, you have to have a commercial kitchen that you piggyback off of. However, there aren't that many commercial community kitchen options in the city of Detroit that are to me, realistic base in price, realistic base in expectancies. Shout out to the Brightmoor Community Kitchen. They do help people that are in the process of trying to get their food license so that they can, you know, use their kitchen space. But I would say, and then shout out to D-Town Farms, who Piper is associated with. They're doing some amazing things with their food co-op. But I would say accessibility versus the amount of people that I personally know that are chefs, that are all kind of chefs. I'm talking about burgers, vegan food, cake makers, cheesecake makers, bakers, all these people that are still cooking illegally, to be honest, because they don't have the resources or the money to pay a monthly fee for a commercial kitchen. I mean, the balance is awkward for me. And then the other thing, like I told you last year, through Piper, I was able to start a pop-up business. And you mentioned Willis Show Bar. Shout out to them. They were our flagship space last year, where, you know, we came in, we set up our own kitchen. You know, we had a griddle, we had a fryer, you know, we did our own thing. We did our own setup, and we served all different types of, you know, plant-based po' boys. We did, you know, oyster mushroom chicken and waffles.
So they treated it as a pop-up. So they rented out their space to you, and you kind of just did your thing, and then you obviously served their clientele. How did that work out for you as a business entity?
Her reception fell off, but I can tell you, she did very well. She actually was able to bring in a couple of partners, and one partner specialized in the desserts, and another, well, her mom came and helped her behind the scenes, you know, with the prep and her other partner helped her conceive of the food and cook the food as well. And basically Willis Show Bar asked them from the night that we did to do some other nights. And so what Willis Show Bar would do would be bring in the different food folks and different bartenders, and then ask for promoters like myself to take over a certain night. And then all of it would work together, and then everyone would promote the night. And then a certain portion of the proceeds, I think, either go to the kitchen or they pay up front. I'm not sure what the business arrangement
Right.
they had was, but it was something like that.
But it was a good, I mean, it was Willis Show Bar, rather than just saying, hey, we're going to pay you, $15 an hour to make pizzas back there, make your thing. You're a partner. And that's the way that the business model where everybody can make something, rather than just like, this is a job for you. No, this is an opportunity for you to start a business and create something. And we're helping you do that. I mean, I did hear, Willis Show Bar was doing a lot of things like that to create. That's what we were talking about, creating opportunity and equity and in cultivating, the next generation of culinary or artists or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're a good partner. I mean, actually Sean Patrick, who is the owner, had asked myself, Stacy, DJ, the legendary DJ Stacy Hot Wax, and Drake Pfeiffer of Urban Organic, and Kendra Parker. We all came together as promoters to bring our respective people together. And then we had a Tuesday, and then every Tuesday we would do that Tuesday night on the promotion. And then there would, like I said, be specialty bartenders from the popular bartenders from different bars and things would come in and like make like a short menu of like 5 special drinks and then he would get a liquor sponsor, like to prioritizing local liquor makers to sponsor the evening. And then the vegan chefs, or it was all types of chefs actually, would do like a special short menu. And then Willis Show Bar also had its own menu, but it was really, really streamlined, its own menu. And he had the bartenders that people know from the other bars that would come in as like a guest bartender. And so that worked out really well, because like I said, it was all cross promotional, so all those people working together to make the night good. But oh wait, I see I see Brittany's back, so I don't know if Brittany wanted to add on. He asked you the question.
My phone died. Yeah, I'm
He asked
sorry.
you a question about how the night went for you, or how your experience with Willis Show Bar went.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, Sean is an amazing dude. He's from LA. And it just so happens to be that he has this, like you said, this space where he's doing so much community activism. He's putting on, I don't care if you're black, white, jazz musician, hip hop musician, DJ, he's opening his space to, artists in Detroit. And then he did the same thing for food. So for us, he was a vegan. So I think he was a little bit in our corner because we made food that, was to his liking. And, we went back. I mean, it started with us doing, I think Piper called us in there to interview with him. And we did one show in October of last year. And then our last pop-up there was March 12th. And that was the month that we were getting ready to do a Yelp event, right? And then we were getting ready to do a monthly thing at Willis. And then, COVID hit, which is, you just talked about it early on, is in the food industry, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to be consistent with your product, but you have to be able to adapt. So I would say that my time at Willis was well served. I've never experienced anything like doing pop-ups. It has taught me that with me having a 9 to 5, I'm not necessarily ready quite yet to do a Monday through Sunday operation, which is perfectly fine. I'm digressing. I would say I told you I went to Italy to study pizza for a little while, but I
Yeah.
also went to this pizza expo in Vegas, and I was so embarrassed. This was like in 2015, and all these people were coming up to me saying, "Hey, like, where's your pizza place? You're from Detroit, Detroit style pizza. Where's your pizza place?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't have one." And they're like, "Well, don't be embarrassed. Like, we had money. We had the money to invest in a restaurant, and we failed miserably. Like, we just so happened to have the money to keep it going. But you're in the right spot." So, I would say that the next phase of doing the pop-ups at Willis for me is like me going to culinary school, right? I'm learning the business side. I'm learning that the food industry is high paced. And that if you want to keep profits, you have to watch your food cost. I learned all kind of things, so
But
now,
did it work out as a pop-up though for you in terms of like
oh
economic?
yeah, yeah,
It did.
yes,
I'm
yeah,
really interested. I think that's a great concept to someone curates a space and then brings in, rather than hires, a chef or a cook for $15-20 an hour, like
yes.
bring someone in that has their own business, let them take, whatever their food costs are, plus their, 50% of their profit margin, and then you either get you do a profit share, you do something like that, and you're able to not only cultivate new business, but it becomes this partnership. If we do that across the city, then it creates
Oh,
authentic, like, experience.
I'm telling you, in New York, right? There's so much real estate there that goes up and down. And I saw it 5 years ago where you could rent a space easily, like an Airbnb, right? For 3,000 some dollars, or, $2,000 for 2 days, where you go in, there's a specific building for restaurants. So the restaurant, may have a baker's pie, they may have a mixer, so that a pizza pop-up could come, or an Italian restaurant pop-up could come, or an Asian. I agree with you. I think it's very, very, very much so needed, because again, we have a lot of bakers, we have a lot of cooks and chefs, from a standpoint of there being just a designated space, or there being a room in the legislation for food licensing for pop-ups. Like, I didn't fit in that category, to be completely transparent, because there's no real legislation for food pop-ups here, right? I think Detroit's food code is amazing, because when you go on the city's website, it tells you everything you need to do as a small business owner, food space, what you need to do to get your licensing. But again, if you're doing pop-ups, right, where you're going into different bars and you're going into different places, there isn't really a process for that quite yet. So I
No.
would say if that changes, and there's more like with what you're doing, you're bridging the gap in between government and the community. I mean, it's just a brilliant idea. It works. The money that we made, like for Willis, not to talk too much, but for Willis, his thing is just bring a crowd. I'm here. Detroit needs, his thing was the same thing as you. Detroit needs to increase their nightlife. So Piper was doing a promotional thing there on Tuesdays, I think. And so the other thing that he used were these pop-up, having different pop-up places come in. And it
Yeah.
worked. You make some good money. He didn't want anything other than, you bringing people in that like to drink. So that he's covering his bar on a Tuesday or a Thursday night. L Club, they took 30%. They had a pizzeria inside the L Club, and they left. And, they started their own pizzeria, Grandma Bob's, off of Trumbull. So he had a pizza oven, he had a full kitchen. And his thing is, hey, at the end of the concert, just throw me, I think I can't remember, it was between 15 and 30%, but it wasn't bad. I made good money, and to give a venue like that type of money after a good night, it doesn't feel bad at all, so.
That's good. I'd like to sidebar on that, and one day have a conversation, because I'm really curious on how that worked out, because there's some projects in mind that I think there's opportunity in other spaces. So let's do that, definitely.
I would love that opportunity, Adrian, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and also too, I'm wondering, do you have any like input on the food truck industry here at all with your position?
What's kind of, because it falls into nighttime. So Lopez's office called me, council member Consolida Lopez, great community advocate, absolutely. But she called and she said that we're only being allowed, because she rewrote the food truck ordinance. She says, Adrian, I need your help. She says, it only goes till 2 a.m. What can we do? And I said, you're right. Like, when the venues let out, we got to have food trucks at least till 4, right? People get out, they sober up a little bit. You put a food truck in one of the venues. So we ended up working with DPD, and DPD, they said we can go till 4 and then open up back at 5:30. So you're closed for about an hour and a half, just because they were worried about, public safety and, someone's going to get in the middle of the night. But if you have more action in the middle of the night, it's scientifically, metrically proven that, or metrically proven that your crime goes down, because there's, lights, there's people out, there's action, there's activity, there's, so I was able to work with Lopez and DPD to extend the hours, and she wrote the new ordinance that we have our food trucks hours now extended. So
that's cool, Adrian.
Yeah. So that's a huge, I know a lot of brick and mortar sometimes, get upset with that, but as long as you're doing it respectfully and you're not right in their parking lot, or you're not, I think there's enough to go around for everybody. That's why we need more people here. We need people to, once we set up our foundation here and we get people working and we get people that live, work, and play here, like, we need to work with Amtrak, we need to work with Delta, we need to work with the airlines, just like they do in Europe, where people go to Berlin for the weekend because they know it's a place that they can go and they can, have a weekend of entertainment. And we're the same thing, right by, East and West Grand Boulevard, where we're really looking at, you got Motown on one side, you got UR and Submerge on the other side, you got all these new venues that are going to be opening up. Hopefully you got, the ecosystem, the Fisher, you got the St. Regis, that there's going to hopefully be some, some activation going on, that Amtrak is right there. So you can, go Amtrak, walk to the St. Regis, stay there and stay in that block for the whole week or the whole weekend, and be able to go to, 10 different venues and all in walking distance. I mean, you got Jam Handy there, you got, you got all those different places there. So that's the kind of thing we need to bring more people here, but we need to make sure that we're, again, unified, and we're all, together working as one Detroit and looking out for each other and networking, sideways, rather than, looking for, to get the next break somewhere else when we can do it with each other.
And what do you think it'll take because I guess, like, I'll say, like, my experience being on the board of different organizations and things, and being a so-called decision maker as to, like, budgets and festivals and all types of things. One of the conversations that usually comes up somewhere along the line, whether I remember I was doing something with working to get some funding to do to put up graffiti, and the folks that were at the table were like, we want to get some quote unquote, real artists, want to fly folks in from LA, and I found myself being, and want to pay them like $50K plus their expenses, blah blah blah. And I'm like, hey, we have graffiti artists here, world-renowned graffiti artists here, and it's like, oh, they treat them like criminals and want to put them in jail, and or not pay them, or tell them that they'll just give them some paint, but they want to fly these other artists in and, like, treat them, roll out the red carpet. And that's on the visual art end. But I've had the other thing happen, when I've been try to suggest other artists, and I had to prove, that these artists were worth something, and we're talking about, major artists that are here, that are based here. And so what do you think it will take for the folks that are here, that are decision makers, that get a chance, that are the ones that decide these budgets and things? How can they be convinced, or how can they be transformed to understand that the artists that are here should be paid, on that level, and not just the big name, people, but the other artists that are here in our city? Like, what will it take so that dynamic can shift?
I mean, I think again, banding together, working with the different. I had a conversation with Ford last week, and and I always say that our big three, God bless them, but they have not tapped into our music community here. Like cars, music, and tech are like Detroit, what it's known for, and our automotive has not tapped into the music industry here, which could be a game changer. So I said, we were talking about some ideas, and I said, you have the new train depot that they're going to have, so many employees. They're doing some great work over there, but invest in your community that's already there, and also infuse music into it. And I think it's just they're like, wow, we didn't really think of that, like, not that they're not thinking, I mean, they're as innovative as they come, but they're just like, wow, that's a really great, how can we connect to some of these artists? And I think it's just, again, creating awareness. It's the awareness piece. It's having the conversations. It's making sure that intentionally the right people are at the table. Because sometimes, and that's the thing about, having people that are from the community, live in the community, are at the table. And that's such a game changing, variable, is that if you're, in a sense of, I don't want to say from the ivory towers in a sense, but if you are, you're not in touch with the mud, with the fabric. I think it's great that the mayor has hired a lot of people that are, they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They live in the neighborhoods, and that's one thing that I've lived in the city pretty much most of my life, but at the time of the when we were running, I was living behind the restaurant in Farmington Hills, and the mayor was like, listen, if we win this thing, you have to move back to the city. And I was like, I want to, but it's like I gotta find the right place. I had to work really hard to move back. But that's a big thing about people that work for the city, live in the city. And that's another thing I really respect about our administration, is that, mostly everybody who's core lives here. So I think that those are the things. Is just it's being intentional, and that will change things. And then having these conversations, not being shy about it either. Be diplomatic. Be where you're supporting, because sometimes you don't see, like, some of these companies, they have things that, because you're not in it, you may not see that they're dealing with this or that. So I think it's just, again, the intentionality. I know I say that a lot, the intentionality, and in just making sure that the right people are at the table, and the right people are doing the right things. So it's work in progress, and it's, nothing truly good comes easy. We all been doing this, a long time, and we just got to keep every day, wake up, and just stay relentless.
Thank you. Well, before we go, I just want to see if anybody had any other questions before we wrap up.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
This has been a marathon a little bit, huh? Right?
Yeah, I mean, because you do so much, and you're really a behind the scenes type guy, but at the same time, it's weird. Like, everyone knows you and everyone loves you. So that says something about,
It's not everywhere. I'll give you some names, Piper.
Well, join the club. No,
Yeah.
but, yeah, but I mean, I appreciate you being an advocate. I appreciate, I mean, and the other thing we didn't even talk about is your advocacy and your activism, and you being in the streets, fighting against police terrorism and all of that,
Yeah, well, I don't even, you want me to tell that story real quick? So the night that, the first night of the protests, I was out with DPD, and we were tear gassing, and the next night, in DPD, I'm very close to DPD, but for their, people were throwing railroad trash, spikes, and hitting, it was bad. It was violent. It was bad. Right. But the next night they called, said, we'll pick you up at 8. I said, I'm out here marching with, like, our kids, like all of our, our artists and everybody. And we got to the front lines, and they were going to tear gas. And I called, I said, you can't, these are all of our locals. Now while we were marching, there were like these white boys that were coming up with AKs and guns, and our youth were like, get out of here. You're going to get us killed. Like, what are you doing here? And they kind of shooed them off. But we all know that there were a lot of other organizations that hid behind the real marches and the real protests, right? And so I didn't even know I'd have my job the next day, but it ended up being that, we were there and we were doing the right thing, and we were advocates. I mean, I went to Washington in March during, MLK's anniversary, everything, just because I don't know. I don't think you choose things, it chooses you in a sense, but that's about when you're in the mud, when you're in the fabric, when you're with the people. It's great to be able to serve because you know where the truth is, what the importance is, and that no matter what, the people are first. The people are first, and that's it. And I know DPD too, and I don't want to get too, but a lot of them would be, some of my best friends are some of DPD, and these guys, these are members of the city, and it was just really hard to be on both sides. But if you put people first, that's where you're always, I think you're always going to land in the right place when you put people first. So that was real, a lot more complicated, but
oh yeah, I know, yeah,
just but hopefully. I think we were here in the city. I think that we were able to, to be a beacon for a lot of other cities because we do have a relationship with the community. And a lot of the police force look like, our citizens and are from the city. But it's not perfect. It's always work in progress. I'm part of a team that Chief Craig's internal and external community affairs team that I, go to these meetings, and it's tough. It's hard. It's hard to even that's some of the work that you do, and you hear some of the residents, and then you hear some of the officers that, have been shot at and have other officers, their partners killed, and this and that. And it's just like, it gets so complicated. It's so complicated. But the DPD officers that I'm friends with they're some incredible human beings. So.
No, I gotcha. And so, yeah, I just want to thank you for stopping through and sharing with us about this position as the say the title again, because I'm gonna call you the Nightlife Mayor.
So the first interview I did when I got the position, I said, "You're the new night mayor of Detroit." I said, "Don't ever use that word. There's only one mayor in the city. We know how you're elected by the people." So we started calling it nighttime economy ambassador. And then Rochelle's like, "You work 24 hours a day." She's like, "I'm gonna call you the 24-hour economy ambassador." So that's the name that stuck. So that's the name that we're putting in the books, the 24-hour economy ambassador.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, Rochelle Riley, I'll give it to her.
We're gonna have to get her on the show.
Yeah, she would be great. She's
incredible. She's doing. So thanks for stopping by and just letting us know a little bit about you, because we just see you with your fresh gear on around the city, looking mysterious and clean.
Yeah,
and now we know who the man is behind the Gucci frames.
I guess that's funny that you say that. God bless guys from Detroit versus everybody who just dropped their Gucci versus everybody. I don't know if you all saw that.
Yeah, and there was the whole exhibit that they did here and everything.
Yeah. So hopefully good. But you know what? I just want to say it's an honor to be on your podcast and to talk to everyone, and let's just let's stay relentless and keep moving, and remember we're only as good as our last performance, and let's do our work together.
And then how can people connect with you and get involved or support what you're doing?
313-570-7497. Just text preferably. If you call, definitely, but text. I'm really kind of OCD about getting back to people, so
I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Peace and love, y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And just want to thank you to Adrian Tonon, who is just amazing, incredible human being. And as you can see and hear, all of the great things that he's doing to advocate for arts and culture, economy, and the 24-hour economy in our city, concentrating on the creative sector and how we can build wealth, generational wealth. So thank you for that. And yeah, this has been the Piper Carter podcast. Thank you for tuning in. You can listen to us on all streaming platforms. We want you to share, like, share, subscribe. We're also on YouTube now as well. So check us out there. And if you want to connect with us or have a conversation, of course, you can join our Facebook group, Piper Carter Podcast. You can always find us on social media. We are on Instagram, pc.podcast, as well as on Facebook. And of course, you want to check the DetroitIsDifferent.net podcast network website for our podcast, as well as all the other podcasts. And stay safe, and we will see you next week.
Remember to like, share, subscribe, and always listen on Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Store, and Spotify.
While I'm confronting my demons, if she a trick that I'm treating. I don't feel the same like I used to. I don't feel that pain at all. Always working again.